Hi, I'm Jim,
And I'm Kevin,
and we are.
the Signal Brothers. Hey, welcome to another session of the Signal Brothers. Jim and I love doing these live podcasts, right? Hey, this is us exposed out there, bare as it is. It doesn't get any better than this, right? Don't forget, if you're watching this podcast, please, you see there's a chat. Go ahead and put some comments in the chat as we go through our session today. And we like to answer questions live. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. And listen, if you haven't liked or followed us, if you haven't followed us on our Facebook page, we greatly appreciate. We're at 97 followers. If we get 3 more, we can also live stream on Facebook. So we're looking for 3 more followers on our Facebook page. So we're over 100, and that would help us tremendously. So today we're going to be talking about some DOGEy stuff, right? And it's going to be, I think Jim and I, we talked a little bit earlier this week. We haven't talked since Wednesday, but we definitely got some opposing opinions on some of the stuff we're going to talk today, and that's okay. This is what we wanted, was to have a spirited debate. And so without any further ado, Jim, let's talk about the emails that the government employees are receiving directly from Elon Musk. What's your thoughts about send me the 5 things you did last week, and if you don't, then you consider yourself fired?
Well, while there is an amount of accountability to be expected from your employees, I think it would have gone over better if it had come from someone in an official government capacity. But if you're being paid and somebody appointed asks you, what have you done? I mean, come on, you need to reply. I get that all the time. What did you do last week, Jim? You know, I don't see where it's that big of a problem answering. And besides, we all live in the real world. I mean, you can debate whether it was right or not, but it's just as easy to answer the email. You know, I get the point. I get the principle, but just answer it and just avoid, pick your battles, pick your battles. Somebody just wants to know what you're doing, what taxpayers are paying you for. I don't see that as a problem. It could have been handled a little better, but overall, I don't see it as a problem on principle.
It's interesting. I definitely see it as a problem, right? The CEO of Ford or the CEO of Microsoft, or you can say Facebook, you can pick any company, right? The CEO of a company would never write an email to all employees and please send me the 5 bullets of things you did this week, right? There's processes in place, and I got it. President Trump is shaking up the tree. I'm good with shaking the tree because the government has gotten too big. But listen, this is overreach, right? Especially to threaten that if you don't answer him, you're fired. I got serious issues with that, right? There's an agency called the Office of Personnel Management. And the Office of Personnel Management is the one that all communications should be going through, right? And the fact is that, shoot, I served as a civilian employee, a federal employee for 20 years. And what I can tell you is, there are weekly activity reports due at every level that roll all the way up to the senior levels in the government. So, okay, let's assume, here's the funny thing, Jim. Do you know that over 1 million federal employees answer that email? They answered. So my question is, great, they answered, and who knows what those answers are?
Mm-hmm.
And I got it. Elon Musk has got set up, probably got some automation set up to take those emails, organize them, and figure out and analyze the responses he's gotten from that. But what real analysis can be done when 1 million people send an email responding with the 5 things they did this week? What's your take on that, man?
Well, like you said, he's probably got some automation set up, but what is it actually looking for? And it also, I mean, what are the responses going to contain? I mean, how truthful are they? Because, I mean, you're basically, and I don't mean to impugn anybody's honor, but you got any group of 1 million people, you're going to have some dodgy ones in there. So.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended. But, I mean, you're going to have some BS answers. The guy that's not doing anything is definitely going to cover for himself. So you have to take that as a part of what you're going to receive. And then, yeah, what is he going to do with them? I mean, I don't like the threatening of firing, because there's a lot of things you can do before you fire somebody. But yeah, your observance of coming directly from the CEO. Yeah, I mean they've got individual supervisors, they've got department heads, that kind of thing, where it could have come from. Like I said earlier, the way it was delivered could have been better, but still, I don't have a problem with them answering it. But what will he really do with it? I can't say.
Yeah, I mean, and what authority does he have to fire? Okay, so how is he going to match up the million people that did answer with the million that didn't answer and determine who needs to be fired? I mean, really? I mean, this is why to me it's just out of control, right? I'm good. Let me be very clear. I'm good with the fact that we need to reduce the size of government, and President Trump did direct all agencies right by 13 March to come up with a plan how they're going to reduce the size of their agency. And while I don't know the details of that memo sent by Trump, I'm sure he's given target levels depending on the agency, right? I'm sure each agency's got a target level they got to reach for a reduction, right? To me, that's a more proper way of doing business. And having this guy, right? So I was a big fan of him, and I'm still a fan of what Elon Musk is doing because he's finding a lot of wasteful spending. And that's what he should
Oh
be
yeah.
doing. He should be finding the wasteful spending, focusing on that, developing reports, because he's yet, let's be honest, he's claiming he's saving a lot of money, but he's yet to provide anybody any empirical evidence. And he has been exposing things. There's no doubt about it. There's been some pretty dodgy stuff that he's been exposing, right? But let's focus on compiling formal reports on that stuff and stop harassing the federal workforce. We got it. There's going to be a reduction in force, right? There's going to be a reduction in force.
Mm-hmm.
Reduction in force happen and focus on finding the wasteful spending. Who creates the wasteful spending? It's Congress. Congress creates that wasteful spending. And now you're beating up on the people that are supposed to execute the funding that Congress has put in place. I'm not so sure that we're looking at things right. I think Elon Musk needs to be looking at Congress's spending, right, and how people who make $175,000 a year are now millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think we got to be looking.
Yeah, you can already see, like when the IRS building, when they were trying to storm that, the members of Congress and their lackeys, you can see that they will not play nice if he directs directly at Congress's spending and Congress's earnings and everything else. They're not going to like that at all.
100%. And I think that's where if you really want to get to the root cause of the wasteful spending in the government, stop beating up on federal workers, right?
Yeah.
Let's go after Congress and start looking at how they are amassing these amounts of money. I mean, there are several congressmen and women, both in the House and Senate, who went in there, right? And they've earned crazy amounts of money.
Oh, we got a comment from Ponytail.
Oh, we did.
That's why line item veto is needed.
Amen.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I'd agree with that.
I would agree with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it probably there's got to be a limit, right? I mean, this up and down, I got to accept the whole package or I got to veto the whole package. I think the line item veto is needed, right?
Yeah, that's why they pushed through 1,500-page bills that nobody reads.
Yeah.
You've had line item veto, that stuff wouldn't happen, or at least it wouldn't happen as,
absolutely.
much.
Absolutely. So, back to the federal workers, Jim, like I said, the federal workforce is fat. We got to reduce the size of the federal workforce. I concur, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we do it in a haphazard way, right? There's a lot of institutional knowledge when you do just crazy things like we're doing right now that you lose, right? And then the effectiveness, right? Let's not say that the whole government is ineffective because it's not, right? And let's keep in mind that Trump he has several appointees that are over these agencies, right? Let them get in, give direction to them to reduce the size of their agencies and let them dig into the wasteful spending, right? Let's just stop making craziness, because this to me is 100% crazy what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, was it necessary that he did that? No, it wasn't necessary. He didn't need to do that. I mean, if you want to trim the fat, if you want to, cut down the workforce, I mean, there's many ways to do it. I'm probably about half, on that. I don't have a huge problem with him doing that. But like I said, he could have done it better. But it was something that didn't necessarily need to be done, at least not this early. So, it was a step that didn't need to be taken. Kind of like Gulf of America. That didn't need to happen. Why did that need to happen? I don't know. But you know what I'm getting at.
I know what you're getting at, man. I'm a retired federal employee. I'm very fortunate. I got to retire. There's a bunch of people that are not going to be so lucky. And my heart goes out to them, but this is just a reality, right? If we look at private industry, and you've been in private industry for years, Jim, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. When a company's not doing well, it lays off the workforce, right? It lays people off, and it's very indiscriminate, right? The masses get laid off, right? They'll lay off 1,000 people. They'll have a target.
They don't care
of a department or percentages of departments, and people just get laid off, right? And not everybody gets a severance package, right? So, this is a reflection of, the federal government has grown out of control. I believe the spending we've been talking about this almost every podcast we've been doing, Jim, about how the federal government is, the budget is out of control, and we got to get it back in control. And the deficit, we keep on talking about the deficit. Deficit is clear reflection that we don't have our spending priorities in place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with $36 trillion, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So let's take these, and it's funny. I was reading this morning about there's a take that all this money that Elon Musk is finding, right, that 20% of it should be returned to the government. I mean, to the taxpayers. Sure, I'd love to get a check, but you know what I'd really like you to do? I'd really like you to take that money and pay down our deficit, right? Let's get our deficit under control.
Yeah, I get that, but you got families out there. You know what $5,000 would do to a family that's starving?
Amen.
I mean, I could, would $5,000 be nice? Sure, it would be. But I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where it's not a make or break for me, so I can say that. Right. But some families, that's not the case.
Yeah, and so maybe instead of just sending it out, right, let those that want the money and who need the money apply for it, right? And those of us that necessarily don't need the money, right, take that money and pay down our darn deficit and get our house in order.
Put it into a fund, that you can apply for.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. That works. That's a good idea.
Because there's a lot of people that need that money. I agree with you, right? And we should not. So if we're going to return money to the taxpayer, and there's people that need that money, let's help out those folks that need the help, right? But those that don't need it, to be honest with you, what could I find something to do with $5,000? I think we all could, right? But at the end of the day, I don't need that money. And if they're not going to pay down the deficit, then please do send me my check for $5,000.
Yeah,
right.
But I mean, I've seen a lot on that, but I've not seen an official declaration that anything like that's going to happen. But I've seen a lot of people talking about it.
Sure, it's just talk right now, right? So I'm just speculating about where this goes, right? Go back to the beginning of our conversation today, Jim. There's been no empirical evidence. We've, like I said, we've clearly seen that he's found some definitely crazy things that have been funded, but at the same token, there should be a report provided to the president and to Congress. Here's the things I found to date, right? And provide the facts behind it, right? So that we can start really looking at where the wasteful spending is.
Well, surely he's not going to create Trump. I mean, he's not going to create an entire agency, appoint somebody over it, have him, off the leash like an attack dog, and not expect some sort of official formal report at the end of a certain period of time.
Yeah.
So I feel that eventually we're going to see something hard copy. We're going to see something in writing.
Well, I certainly hope so, right? And I would think that we would do interim reports, right? We're 6 months into the administration, 6 weeks, excuse me. We're 6 weeks into the administration now. And I would think after 6 weeks, we could get some kind of interim report, right? We should, as taxpayers, you're finding all this money that's being wasteful. Well, give us a report and prove to us, right? Just don't say it, right? Because this guy says a lot, but I don't see him doing a lot, right? And I'm sorry, I'm not against Elon Musk. I'm all about finding the wasteful spending, but you got to start providing some empirical evidence of the details, right? Stop with the headline news. I get out of the news, right? Get out of the sensationalization of what you're doing and focus on providing us details.
That's just a great tactic because, and that's a Trump tactic. It's got that written all over it. The people want to see sensationalism. They want to see drama. They want to see boom, boom, boom. So that's what they're showing them.
Yeah.
You know, you get that out up front, you get people interested, you get people hooked on. We want to see this. We want to see this. And after so much time, here's what we got to show you. I think that's what I hope that's what they're doing. Because like you said, we need to see some sort of formal actual, this is the numbers.
100%. Get it posted online. Let us all take a look at it. Let the taxpayers see the spending, right? Let's get it documented and publicly available, right? Call it out for what it is, right? You know, here's a funny thing that I found out last Friday, Jim. In the Pentagon, they're setting up an office, a DOGE office in the Pentagon. And, you know, 6 weeks ago, I moved from the Pentagon over to DARPA in my contract role. They're setting up that office right across from where I used to work in the Pentagon. Isn't that funny? So I'd gone, there's a guy leaving the contract I'm on, and they had a farewell for him. And I met everybody, said, yeah, DOGE is moving right across the hallway from us. And I'm like, wow, that must be interesting. Right. So they're setting up office in the Pentagon. And I think they got to set up office. I don't think they can do a broad stroke with the Pentagon. You look at how big the Pentagon is, all the agencies, you know, all the commands, all the services, right? That's going to take a while to dig through.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Especially when you're getting pushback. They're going to give the deeper he digs, and the more influential the people, the more pushback he's going to get.
Absolutely.
And it would not surprise me that it might end badly for him, if you know what I mean. I don't want to say the actual words.
Yeah.
You know, but you know where I'm going with that.
Oh, I know where you're going with it. The funny thing is the people that I was on contract with that are right across the hall with him, they started all getting worried. I said, trust me, he's looking at the 50,000 foot view of the DOD. He doesn't care what you guys are doing in your office. Trust me. What you're doing is very minuscule compared to the large mission that they're going to be focused on strategically across the hallway from you.
That could be fun, though. That could be fun. I really need these scissors, Elon. I really need them. What I'm doing with them, you know, I'd be doing that to them all day long.
Yeah. So, yeah, Jim, I think we hit the nail on the head on this one. I really think we're at a point. You agree? We're at a point where we'll switch over to what's going on with Ukraine.
Oh God, sure.
Woo!
Boy, that was a change up yesterday. I wasn't expecting.
I didn't see that coming, Jim. I did not see that coming. And you know, I've been watching a lot of stuff that's been written, and I actually watched some of the video. I couldn't watch the whole thing. I just couldn't watch it. I got to be honest with you. You got two world leaders on the stage in front of the world, and I felt like I was watching two kindergartners, right, having a spat. It's important information. Don't get me wrong. I'm not downplaying the importance of President Trump's message, right? But come on, man.
Yeah. I don't watch a lot of the stuff live. It's just, well, I agree with what he's doing. Damn, he's arrogant. It's hard to watch him sometimes. You know?
Yeah.
The thing that automatically, and the reporter even asked the question, the thing that automatically caught my attention was, what the heck was Zelensky wearing?
Yeah, well, that's what he always wears.
It's just like, you can't show up at another country in their circle of leadership and not put a suit on. I just found that odd. And I know he always dresses like that, but he's not always in the White House.
Yeah, I understand, but all the trips he's made, that's been his style. And whether it's right or wrong, right? He's a country at war, and I think that's the message he's trying to send, right? We're still
Yeah,
at war,
I don't have the
right?
luxury of
100%, right? And let me tell you, we cannot embolden Putin. And my
no.
concern, right, wrong, or indifferent about what went on yesterday, is that emboldens Putin,
Mhm.
right? And that guy is already unstable in my book. Putin is unstable. I'm probably going to have some guys come visit me at my door, shake my hand, and I'll have nerve agent tomorrow for saying it. Well, we only
Yeah.
have 4 followers this morning, so I doubt that I might even on Putin's radar. But nonetheless, right, we're emboldening him, right, and that's my concern.
Yeah, if he sees this as us falling out of favor with the Ukraine, oh yeah, if the U.S. is out of favor with Ukraine, can I get in favor with the U.S.? It's just it opened up a whole big old can of. But I got to tell you, well, it was VPJD that popped right in there first though.
Yes.
He jumped right in there like a dog, like a bulldog, and just okay. Now hold on a minute. That's normally the VP. You don't see a lot of what they do up front. They're
Yep.
kind of like the man behind the man kind of thing. But he's right up there. He was right up there in that.
Well, he's thinking about 2028.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned, right? Because if we got to stand strong with Ukraine. That's my opinion. We got to
Mhm.
stand strong with Ukraine. I think Zelensky's comments after this is not about myself and President Trump. This is about 2 nations, right? And the people in those nations. And I don't think he was trying to threaten Trump, though Trump took it that way about, hey, you feel safe now, but you may feel unsafe, right? If this war spills into other countries, it's going to be a game changer, right? The World War III comment that Trump made, he needs to look at. I think that's what Zelensky was trying to tell him. Says,
Mhm.
hey, so one of the things is, and I'm sure the people listening in have seen it too. There was some heated discussion prior to those two sitting down, right? 2
Mhm.
issues that I know of. One, Zelensky wasn't going to sign the mineral deal because he wasn't getting any security guarantees. What are those security guarantees that he was asking for? I don't know, right? Was it membership in NATO, which we know is not going to happen, right? But I also know that he called Putin a terrorist, right? And Trump didn't like that. So there was already some terse words before they sat down. And
Mhm.
to be honest with you, I got to say that I agree that Putin is a terrorist. The unilateral actions he's taken in 2014 and 2022, right, in Ukraine, is very terroristic in my book.
Well, to me, the word terrorist has a specific meaning, and generally, it's not the leader of a nation. Your terrorist people are generally people that are down here, in the people doing individual things. It's never going to really amount to any great change. When somebody that's a leader of an entire country does it, it goes far beyond terrorism.
Oh yeah.
I don't like that the word was used because Putin's not going to take well to that. He's not going to take kindly to that at all. But I mean, trying to think of who to compare him to, but you got to realize also, Ukraine was a part of the Soviet Union until they just dissolved in 1991, 91, 92. So
Yep.
it's kind of like, you can see where the country, I want my stuff back. Okay. Well, let's attack it from that arrangement. Then they're a free country. They're their own sovereign, state. Why don't you set up some deals with them? Why don't you what I mean? But of course, that's where all this is going. But it's David and Goliath. I mean, come on, look at the size of that country, and you got little Ukraine. I mean, how are you expect to win that? And if it's not to say that you need to kiss somebody's butt to get what you need, but you kind of need the backing. And in all honesty, how far are we away from that region of the world? We can't be there at a moment's notice. It's going to take
No,
time to get there if you have an invasion. If they
100%.
show up on your borders, I mean, how many hours, if not days, are we looking at before we can have somebody there to help?
Yep.
You know, so yeah.
It's a,
But if we're there if we're there enforcing our minimal rights in a deal or whatever reason why we may be there, permanent presence, I don't know. That's a lot quicker response than us being clear over here. So Russia can just, you know what, if we can take that country in 12 hours, we don't have to deal with the US. You know?
well, I think, we're beyond 3 years in this war. So I think Putin's calculations of being done in 12 hours, and over
Yeah.
is gone.
But you get what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I got what you're saying. He's surmounted, what's the word I'm looking for? Monstrous losses, right? Personnel, equipment, resources into this war, and it's getting nowhere, right? It's really getting nowhere, and without Europe and U.S. support, right, there's no way that Ukraine can sustain in this war.
Yeah, it's a war of attrition.
Yeah. So, but the terroristic perspective that I believe Putin brings to the door is when we're ordering strikes on the power infrastructure, right, which supports majority civilians. So it'd be different if it was targeted towards military installations, but you're taking out main power infrastructure in the country. You're taking out hospitals. You're taking out. That's terroristic to me, right? The people of Ukraine are living in fear, and for what? For what? What did they do to deserve it? Right? They didn't do anything to deserve it. I got it. There are people in Ukraine that believe they should be part of Russia, and there's a way to approach that, and it's not the way Putin's doing it. But and I did a lot of reading when this war first started. That when the breakup of the Soviet Union happened, Jim, Putin was a young guy, but he absolutely disagreed with that. He wanted to stay with the way life was, and now he's at a point where he's trying to reestablish that dominance.
What was it that Zelensky said? He said in that meeting, and this is the first time I heard this. You may have heard it before, but this is the first time I heard this, is that Russia was taking their young people and taking them from their families and changing their names. And had you ever heard it?
Yeah, I those are accusations, and are they happening? It could be. I don't know, right? But the fact is that this has been going on since 2014, right? With the annex of Crimea, right? It's got to stop, right? Because if we don't assist Ukraine in drawing the line on this, who's next? Right? It's not just Ukraine. What country's next? Is Estonia, Latvia, right? Georgia? I mean, who's next?
They've got nothing to fight that with. I mean, it's like I said a moment ago, it's a war of attrition. If you've got, I'm just grabbing numbers here. If you got 10 billion soldiers you can throw at this, and this guy's got 100,000, guess who's going to win? Eventually, it may drag out, but if you lose 100,000 out of your 10 million, who cares? That's their point of view anyway. It's a war of attrition.
Yeah, man, I tell you, and it goes back to the thing, Trump said, "Hey, Zelensky doesn't want peace. When he's ready for peace, he needs to come back and see me." Right? Well, I agree. I think the negotiators for Ukraine need to stay in the U.S. and have negotiations with whoever Trump has working on that, whether that be Rubio or whoever, right? But we got to work towards that, right? And I tell you, my first red flag about the initial conversations is that the U.S. was meeting with Russia, but you didn't hear anything. And it doesn't mean that the negotiations weren't going on the Ukraine side, right? The way the media portrayed it is, hey, Trump's discussion with Russia and Ukraine's not included, right? That's the way the media portrayed it.
Yeah.
And so my question is, hey, I'm sure Ukraine's been negotiating all along what their interests are and what they're looking for, right? And they're going to ask for the moon, and they're not going to get the moon. So let's get back to the negotiating table. Let's get this war ended, right? That's what needs to happen. Because if we don't get it ended, it's going to explode. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I mean, like you were talking about the other countries in the region. I mean, those are smaller countries. If they spill over into that, Ukraine is kind of like the staging point. If we can take back Ukraine, it's going to be that much easier to take those other smaller countries around in that region. You know, and of course you're butting up against China, so that's a whole other deal there. But I mean, and then poor South Korea, they're down here on this little peninsula, and then they're going to have all this above them: North Korea, China, Russia taking over Ukraine. I mean, and Republic of Korea has been a free country for over 60 years. The South Korea has been a free country for over 60 years, and they're an industrial giant for their size, and they're left out in the middle of holy crap. You know what I mean? And that's just going to be ugly. And they're a huge ally of ours.
Yeah.
And you got little Japan over there. Japan's a powerhouse, but they're still small. You know, the little island over there. Yeah, it could get ugly real fast.
It could get ugly real fast. I agree. And this is why we got to get back to the negotiating table, right? So we had that spat yesterday. I think it left a lot of people speechless, right? People have different perspectives. We've been reading the different perspectives, right? And they go largely along party lines, right? I'm a Republican. People know I'm a Republican, but I'm not going along party lines, right? We got to get back to the basics of negotiating, right? We have to. I'm not happy with what I saw yesterday. That's why I couldn't watch the whole thing. I didn't watch it live.
We need to send them our 5 rules.
We sure do.
Yeah.
If they would follow our 5 rules, I think they'd be okay.
Yeah. I wonder, and I agree we need transparency in our government, but how that would have gone without the show. If it wasn't televised, if it wasn't in front of the cameras, if it wasn't, I mean, how much are you trying to, fluff your feathers in front of the cameras? I wonder if that would have gone any different. But again, we wouldn't have the transparency. So,
Yeah. And while, I've been, I've made it very clear I'm not happy how it happened and the way Trump handled it, right? I'm also not happy the way Zelensky handled it. Let's be real, right? He did try to flex, right? Don't try to flex in the Oval Office when you're sitting next to Donald Trump. You're going to lose.
Yeah, that's his wheelhouse right there.
He definitely miscalculated, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna over showboat Donald Trump. No. You're just not gonna do it. He may be a lot of things, but he is definitely a showboat.
Yeah, and again, we all know Donald Trump's not a statesman, but come on, man, be a statesman, right? And it goes back to your comment about Vance, right? Right, Vance. I think Vance jumping in there set a tone. I think Vance's comments were completely appropriate. The comments that I did watch, because like I said, I didn't watch the whole thing. I couldn't stomach it anymore. I felt like I was watching Romper Room, right, on the world stage. So,
yeah, that is not going to be received very well. I'm still waiting to hear some of the fallout.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see some of the fallout is yet to come, right? In strikes against Ukraine, on issues. We already got strife between the NATO partners and the U.S. So it's going to be interesting to see how the fallout comes with this, and we really need to focus on this. I think is important.
We got another question.
That's a great comment, John. Appreciate that. Yes. Those two cases are going for the Supreme Court, whether you can halt or whether the president's authorized to halt payments authorized by Congress. That's a great comment because Congress authorizes the money to be spent. But I think, John, in reference to your comment, the executive office, if it's earmarked for a specific program, I think long as it's going that program, how the executive branch spends it is up to them, right? So Congress authorizes those payments, right, in certain buckets of money. And long as that money is used for that bucket or that program or whatever, I think the executive agency has free will to execute that money as they see fit within that bucket of money or program. And yes, I think we're all violently in concurrence that the line item veto has got to come in place, right? Democrat or Republican president, whether Congress is aligned or not aligned, let's be honest. We need that line item veto, right? There's too much pork in the darn budget, and this is how you start plucking it out.
Yeah, some of the things they slide in those bills, like I was talking about before, they push them through as is, and they slide the stuff in there that's completely not necessary. And again, like I've said before, I believe just gets laundered right back to them. That line item veto would go a long way to taking care of that.
Absolutely. And I think we're at the point where we transition to about the budget, right? The 2025 budget. Here we are, 1 March, Jim, 1 March. And we still don't have an approved budget for the U.S. government. God bless America. What is going on? We got a Republican Congress, a Republican president. We are 2 weeks from it expiring, right? And the government shutting down. And let me tell you, everybody thinks, well, it's good, we'll save money. No, we never save money with a shutdown. Shutdowns don't save us money. They really, really don't, right? So let's what is holding them up from getting this budget across the line in just under 2 weeks?
That goes back to the whole Elon Musk and Doge thing. I never know how to pronounce that. What if he is waiting for that report we were talking about, we hope is coming, before he outlines a budget?
But he's outlined a budget, and both houses, the House and the Senate, have been negotiating, and I know there's some issues negotiating, but I tell you what, they need to put their big boy panties on and get that budget across the line, right? Here's the impacts that we don't. I don't know. People work for the government and have worked for the government for years, understand, but like, when you plan out budgeting in your budget in an agency in the government, right? I mean, you're doing it 3 to 5 years out. And when you get to the point of execution, the year of execution, you're ready to execute that program, that whatever that money's funded for. When we get to a CR, that money for those programs for execution, for new items that need to happen, that money is not released and it's not available. The money that's released is the money to keep the lights on. So really nothing's getting done, right? We're kind of in a holding pattern, keeping the lights on, and the government is not moving forward. While Elon Musk is finding wasteful spending, right? There's a lot of good work that does go on in the government. And when we get into these CRs and we don't pass a budget, we are causing more waste. Now what happens is, if we push back a short-term spending bill again, we're not leaving those programs, those valid programs and initiatives that the government was going to put in place to execute in the year of execution. So what's going to happen is they're not going to be able to spend that money effectively. And then, the good old saying in the government, well, you got to spend the money by the end of the year. And if you don't spend the money by the end of the year, right, you won't get money next year, right? We got to stop that. So Jim, I'm sorry I've been going on for a minute about this, but I'm passionate about this CR thing. Get the darn budget passed. Let's go.
Well, another thing that they do when they find themselves in a pinch is they like to resolve everything by raising the debt ceiling. And you don't need to raise the debt ceiling. You need to do what's going on now, is cut some of that waste out and not raise the debt ceiling. I mean, that's the big thing right there. You think, it's like you have a credit card. It's like, well, I'm about up to my $5,000 limit. Hey, let's see if they can increase my credit limit. No, that's not how that works. I mean, it would work, but then you just get yourself deeper in debt. That's the only result of that. You can take care of what you need at the moment, but long term, that's a bad idea. And we keep raising that debt ceiling. It's like, come on, how about we cut some of the spending? How about we, quit taking, jets across the country just to have a meeting on this or that. How we can telecommute now, and you're not telecommuting. I know it's picked up, but still, how many of these congressmen and aides and everything hop on a jet and fly? So you can have a teleconference, man. Come on. See, I'm sounding like Biden now. Come on, man.
So this is the interesting thing. So if we don't raise the debt ceiling, right, what happens, right? What really happens if we don't raise the debt ceiling, right? We don't have enough money to pay off the interest on the bills we have. We're outspending what we're taking in, right? So I agree that hard cuts have to happen. If you look at the outline, because that's really what it is, an outline of what the budget they're currently working on is. It has significant cuts in it. There are significant cuts, right? Probably not enough, but we got to give Elon Musk time to go through these agencies and see where the waste is happening, so we can really formulate a budget, right? A balanced budget, or right where we return money back to pay down the deficit. But I think we're not. I don't think we have a choice. I think we got to raise it until, I would say, raise it enough to get through a year, let Doge get through what it's doing, and then figure out how we spend. Just like you said, I got a credit limit of $5,000. I got to stay within that $5,000.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's things that can be done to do that, instead of just saying, "Oh, it's just easy enough to get Congress to vote on raising the debt." No. I mean, like you said, hard choices, the sacrifices have to be made. Hard choices have to be made, and you're not going to be popular for making those choices.
No, but shouldn't be a popularity contest,
No.
right? Shouldn't be a popularity contest. This is really about doing the right things, right, for our country, right? And there are, and we've done this. It's amazing how we always come full circle, Jim, on some of the subjects we talked about. Social programs, right? We talked about welfare. We've talked about, and the social programs are important, right? And there's already talks this year about cutting Medicaid, right? But we can't. Our aging population is growing, right? The older population is getting old. I mean, the number of older people is growing. So how do we think we can reduce, right, our spending on Medicare? We can't. Medicare and Social Security spending is going up. It's other areas we got to find cuts.
Well, that one I can speak to. That's my career. I work government healthcare. So that's not happening.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's growing, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's growing. I can't talk about it because it's not been finalized yet, but what we're doing right now in the company I work for and another company, it's growing. It's by leaps and bounds. It's not going away.
Yeah. Well, I just, again, rumor mill. I don't know. I don't have inside scoop. I haven't been reading the bills, but there are definitely things out there that they're going to potentially cut some Medicare. And John's come back. Yes, Jim, I will tell you, Jim, I wholeheartedly concur with you. I think the DOD budget is so overdone, right? That is where a lot of our savings are going to come from, John, is the DOD budget, right? If I was boss, John, I would say, hey, if the budget for the DOD is $800 billion, you have to start finding 10% cuts every year in the DOD for the next 10 years and bring that thing under control, right? It was amazing. I read a book about airplanes, right? I forget the name of the book. One of my bosses had me read it when I was a government employee. I read it and it's amazing. The A-10 is one of the most well-funded, well-operated airplanes or jets that the U.S. government has ever created. However, all these other programs out there, they're super, super over-bloated because the 4 stars and the 3 stars are trying to always add all these things to these planes, which bloat these programs. So they're so out of control. So I'm sure submarines, John, are the same way, right? Exactly the same thing.
Yeah. If it can be bigger and better. Submarines that they did not receive. Yeah, I seem to have heard something on that, but I don't know the whole story.
Yeah, and I'm sure this comes down to, okay, we sign a contract with a vendor to provide these submarines. Then as we start building the submarines, right, we say, hey, I appreciate that. Hey, I got this change I need you to make to the submarine. It's going to cost you more money. right? Because we already have the plans to build them this way. And so then they go back and they get additional funding, and they're going to add the change. And so now the vendors on, the contractors underway building these submarines. Oh, by the way, we think these submarines would be even better if we add this feature to it, right? Well, that means a change going to cost you more money.
Well, you know how we handle that in the IT world. We got this project. We need to do this. Hey, does it have this? No, it doesn't have that. Well, don't you think we should add that? Well, you know what? We need to finish the project that's in its scope. And then that can be an additional project later on to add that to the project. Stay within scope. You stay within budget. Most likely. I mean, there are things that happen you can't control, but that's the idea.
Yeah, I agree. I guess when you're building a submarine, though, right? You build in scope, and if you enclose the thing, you can't build in these great idea fairy things that people want to build into it later.
Well, it depends on what it is.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to submarines, airplanes, ships of that and things of that nature, it's one of those things that we got to figure out what, it starts with what is the end state, right? What is the lethality that piece of item should have and the key features it should have, and build it in. And then you can always come back later with a, like you're saying, right? Complete that work and then come back with a retrofit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Amen, John. Where's the money? That's where we're happy DOGE is doing what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
We're happy that Elon Musk is going and finding the wasteful spending, right? And what we covered early, John, is I'm just not good with them harassing federal employees, right? Because the federal employees are not the ones wasting the money. It's Congress wasting the money, right? And the senior folks that come up with these good idea fairies to add stuff in. So, amen. Where is the money? Where's the money going? That's one thing we were saying earlier, John. There were so many things that money has been spent on, and Elon Musk has claimed that he's saving us money. We just want to see a report, right? That should be publicly published, that we can see the savings that he's truly bringing to the table.
Well, there's the matter of what's he saving now versus what's projected to be saved, after a period of time in a fiscal year or whatever time frame they're talking about. Because if you cut down, this department by so many employees, you're not going to realize those savings right now. You're going to realize it within the year.
So we got two good comments in the chat, and I love both of them. First, I'm going to hit ponytails, right, about the dark money that's earmarked for clandestine projects. And so that's one of those, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, right? Because there are things that we probably just don't want to know are going on behind the scenes, right? And so we need to have those clandestine projects, right? But there's got to be somebody that's a watcher on those clandestine projects, Ponytail. I agree with you that it just can't be, can't run roughshod, right? And amen. The SES community, the senior executives, right? So for those of you that are not familiar with the government employees, right? The SES is the senior executive service, right? They are civilians that have the authority equivalent to a general, right? So you have tier 1 through tier 4 SESs in federal government, and they are the ones that really to hold accountable. And I think that is what Trump is trying to clean up, right? Is these long-term federal bureaucrats, right? These are the federal bureaucrats, the SESs that he's talking about. And I'm not saying all SESs are bad. There's some good ones out there, but there's a lot of people out there that are out for themselves, right? And are not focused on the program. John, you and I have seen it more than we care to want to see it in our time in federal service. So I definitely think there's a lot of accountability on the senior executives.
Yeah.
Interesting conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting conversations.
I'm I'm reminded of a movie. I can't remember the name of it, where Eddie Murphy becomes a congressman simply by name recognition. He just happens to have a similar name to a congressman that just died. You remember that movie? And when he gets in there, all these congressmen, all these Congress people are talking about how they got in, how they're jealous about how he got in. And they just start talking all this stuff about, and it just kind of makes you think, what do these people really go on behind this? I just want to get in here to make money, because that's the only reason Eddie Murphy's character did it. He wanted to get in to make that money, to be in a position to make more money. And when you look at people, a lot of times it's pretty obvious, but not always. Yeah, you see your congressman, which ones are the good ones that actually got in it for public service, and which are the ones that got in it and are in it, maybe even converted. They had honorable intentions at the beginning, but realized how much money they could make, and then just kind of went rogue. That's all that they're about. Because I mean, some of these net worths that you see anymore from these Congress people getting paid $170,000 a year is ridiculous. And then they want to turn around and talk about, I want to see Trump's tax return. I don't give a darn about Trump's tax returns. He was rich before he got into government. I don't care about that. You can question it. And I'm just using Trump as an example. You can, critique his business practices all you want. That's business. I care about it when he's in government. He didn't do that, to get rich in government. He's not even taking a salary, and neither is Musk, for that matter. It's like, so, and then you can see some of them out there when they talk and when they address certain things, and you can just kind of see, if you pay attention, you can see who's actually in it for the good and who's not.
Yeah, I definitely think our congressmen's tax returns should be publicly available, right?
Oh,
they claim that Trump should be available. Theirs should be available.
Yeah.
So we can see it all. We can see it all.
And you got people that are making money the same way that, the cook show, the lady in the cook show that went to jail, Martha Stewart.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
She went to jail for what some Congress people do every day.
Well, how about the senator from, where's it, from New Hampshire, Rhode Island, the one that his wife was getting preferred contracts based on his influence? That came out in the news. But he's not, we're hitting him up because he's new in the news. So let me just be very clear for the listeners out there. We're not going after him because he's Democratic, because we know there's Republicans in the same boat, right? So this is what we're going after. We're going after it in general. Like, let's be honest, right? They're making money. All right. They are making lots of money. Yep. Yeah. DC is too corrupt to fix. That's right, John. It is. And even though, I have the pleasure of working at the Pentagon for 10 years, and I'm honored to be able to have been there. But I'll tell you, just from my perspective, working at the Pentagon for 10 years, that thing is a darn machine, right? So whether Hegseth's in there or anybody else is in there, right? They're waiting them out, right? They're waiting them out. No matter how much they clean house, it is so embedded, right? The institution runs in a certain way, and you may be able to nudge it a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, but let's be honest. You're not going to change that institution. I'm just telling you, I'm convinced you're not going to change that institution unless you clean house. You'd have to just wipe the slate clean and start again. Same in Congress, right? And I'm not threatening overthrow of Congress. Let me be very clear. What I am saying is we got to be involved in the elections. We covered this day one, right? People are involved when it's president, when it's their congressmen and their senators, but you got to be involved in your local elections too, right? Because the local folks become the state folks become the federally elected folks, and that's not always true, but it is on a larger scale of how system works and people move up in politics. So I really think got to pay attention to what's going on and who you're electing and putting in there, right? That's what we got to do.
Mm-hmm. It's like when I'm trying to explain to my children the federal lawmakers versus your local lawmakers. It's like, you're not going to change things as easily on a federal level as you are in your local level, your city government, your state government. I was like, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of laws and regulations that are sovereign to the state that the federal government has no control over. You need to be involved there, because I've had conversations with my children about things that the federal government's done, and I was like, okay, that's not okay. You may or may not have lost this one, but you need to go down and you need to petition your city government, your state government. You start there, you get that win, or you at least get that influence by your votes, by you showing up at town halls, by you showing, you know what I mean? That's where you start. If you start at the top, boy, that's a fight. And it's a fight you'll probably never win, especially when you're talking about a state's sovereign rights.
100%. I agree with you 100%. So I live in a county, and I have gone and spoke in front of the Board of Supervisors more than once in my county to express my pleasure or displeasure with things that they're doing, right? And that's what really starts. You got to be vocal in your own community. Amen to that, Jim. And there's some things going on in our county, and that's probably another subject for another podcast, but there's some crazy things going on in our county, and our county's out of control. And we need to get things under control in our own county, right? So I'm paying attention at the local level. I'm definitely paying attention at the local level, actively working to get the right people elected in these local slots that are doing the right things for our county. You're 100% right. That's where you have the most influence, right? But again, when we're actively involved in our local and state communities, it's amazing the impact that has on the rest. On the federal level, it's amazing.
Yeah, we live in a little town, a suburb of a major city, and we have our own, of course, little city government. But we have the much larger county government. But when you address that, and I know people that do this, and this I don't agree with it. You know, we have Congress people that we talk to. They've come to my door. I've seen them at meals that we've had in our community. You know, both Democrat and Republican, and you can generally engage with them. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. And a lot of times, if you go up to one and you can, if you go down and you want to dwindle down politics and party lines and everything, that's a whole different conversation. But if you go on and say, we have a problem with our street, we have a problem with our city center, and whether you're Democrat or Republican, that's a topic that everybody can get on board with. Like, yeah, we have this problem. The traffic light needs to be put there because there's too many accidents. That's something everybody's on board with. You know, nobody wants a minivan full of children getting hit because there's no stoplight. Everybody can get on board with that. There is no Democrat or Republican in that position. So you engage your people, and to hell with party lines. You know,
I agree. So John, we agree about the civics classes. There's a lot of things I think that need to be structured about American public education, right? We need to be focused on the STEMs, right? If we want to really make the workforce of the future, we got to start building STEM in the classroom at early ages. Civics got to be included, budgeting, credit scores, things of basic common things that we don't teach in school that need to be there. So John, we're on board with you on that, right? I think we need to look at public education. Not that I'm putting down public education, because it's good in some areas and some areas not. You know, we did talk 2-3 podcasts about Department of Education and reducing, slashing that, and focusing on what are the standards that every state needs to meet, right? Setting that standard, right, that each state meets. Amen.
Yeah. And I mean, there's things like that. It don't matter if you're going to white collar job, blue collar job, if you're going to be a plumber, if you're going to be a CEO, you need to know how to balance your checkbook. You need to know how to fill out a tax form. I mean, common sense stuff, Kevin, like you said, like that is just not being taught anymore.
No,
no.
And it's really important, really important. You know, Jim, we're coming at the top of the hour.
Yep.
It's been I don't know about you, but I think I really enjoyed this live podcast the best so far.
Yeah, this was we covered a lot of topics. Yeah, this was pretty good.
We covered a lot of ground, and we had some good feedback in the audience. And just a reminder to the audience, right? Don't be afraid to post stuff. Put your comments in there. We're happy to engage with you in the chat. And please don't forget to go to Facebook. Get us over 100 likes. Not followers. No, we need 100 followers on Facebook so we can also stream this live on Facebook, right? If you like what we're doing, please go to our YouTube page and leave some feedback on our YouTube page as well. Hey, one of the things we're going to start doing is I'm going to start taking some of the clips from our podcast. We're going to open up an Instagram page and start putting some clips out there. Would love for you guys to engage us on Instagram as well, right? We're doing this because we really believe in what we're doing, right? We're doing this because we really believe we got to have these tough conversations. So, Jim, what's your comments on that?
Absolutely. We're trying to expand. We want to get you guys to plug us up, and get more people on board, and maybe suggest some topics. Become guests. Just get involved. Just get
That's what we
involved. We'll
want.
help spread the word.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One other thing that Kevin, you and I talked about is we wanted to broach the subject of possible different time frames to broadcast.
That's right. That's right. So we'd love to know what time frame you all think we should do the podcast. Right? We pick Sundays Saturdays at noon Eastern Standard Time. Right? If you think there's a better time, we ought to do it during the week in the evening, Sunday nights. Let us know. We want to make this podcast what our followers want it to be. We want to have, as Jim said, you on here as a guest. Right? If you're passionate about a subject, reach out to Jim and I. Let us know you're passionate about that subject, and we'll be happy to have you on as a guest. We'll meet with you first. We'll make sure that we're on track with where you're going with stuff to make sure we kind of map it out. We did that with Emilio on our last podcast. I think that went really well. Emilio was definitely connected with the Panama Canal, and I thought that was a great conversation about the Panama Canal and the complexities of that. So we'd love to see you. We'd love to have you on. Thank you for listening, right? For staying with us and listening through us for a whole hour.
Absolutely. We appreciate it.
All righty. Well, I'm Kevin.
I'm Jim.
And we are
the Signal Brothers.
Take care, folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.